Welcome students in online classes of Divine Public School. In this video students, I am going to explain another important chapter of class 12 English textbook Flamingo. Chapter number 3, Deep Water, written by William O. Douglas. At first students, summary of this chapter into English. Douglas was about 4 years old. He visited a beach in California with his father. The waves knocked him down and swept over him. He was buried in water and was breathless. He was terrorized by the strong force of the waves. But his father had only laughed. He avoided water since then. When Douglas was 10 or 11 years old, he had decided to learn swimming. The Yakima River was treacherous. Quite a few people had drowned in it. His mother advised him never to try to swim in it. But the YMCA pool was safe. It was only 2 to 3 feet deep at the shallow end, and while it was about 9 feet deep at other end, the drop was gradual. Douglas decided to learn swimming there. He bought a pair of water wings and went to the pool. He paddled with the water wings. He imitated others. He went to the pool one day and found that no one else was there. He was timid about going in alone. So he sat on the side of the pool to wait for others. Just then, a well-built young man came there. He was quite muscular. He picked up Douglas and threw him into the deep end of the pool. Douglas landed in a sitting position, swallowed water, and went at once to the bottom. Douglas was terrified, but he could think of any plan to save himself. He decided to spring from the bottom of the pool as soon as his toes touched it. He hoped he would pop like a cork to the surface. Then he would lie flat and paddle to the edge of the pool. As soon as his toes touched the tiled floor of the pool, Douglas bounced with all his strength. But he did not rise quickly. He came up slowly. He opened his eyes. He could see only water. He grew panicky. He was suffocating. He tried to shout, but there was no sound. Finally, his eyes and nose came out of water. He beat his arms. He tried to raise his legs, but they hung like dead weights. He felt something was pulling him downward again. Once again, he moved downward. He had spent up all his energy. He had lost all his breath. His lungs ached and his head throbbed. He was getting dizzy. But fortunately, he could remember his planning. Once again, he sprang from the bottom of the pool. He was paralyzed, stiff and rigid. But when he jumped, he could see only water around him. Then suddenly, he reached the surface. His eyes and nose came out of water. But he began to go down once again. Once again, he began to drift downward. He could make no effort. He was relaxed. There was no fear. There was no panic. It was all quiet and peaceful. He felt as if he was floating in space. He was unconscious. When Douglas regained his consciousness, he realized he had been sick. He was lying on his stomach. He was vomiting. He heard voices. Someone said he had nearly died. The young man who had thrown him into the pool said that he had done it out of fun, only for fun. After some time, Douglas went home. Douglas could not eat that night. He was weak and trembling. He shook and cried on his bed. The dreadful experience haunted him again and again. A few years later, he went to the water of the Cascades. He wished to wade into them. The terror seized him again. His legs were paralyzed. Whenever and wherever he went fishing, canoeing, bathing, and swimming, he was seized with terror. The joy of living was lost. Finally, Douglas decided to get an instructor to help him overcome his fear of water. The instructor helped him beat by beat, piece by piece. First, he put a belt around Douglas and attached the belt with a rope. He held the end of the rope as they moved up and down the pool. He made Douglas put his face under water and exhale. He held Douglas on the side of the pool and made him kick with legs. He was with Douglas for about 6 months. Students, 6 months तक उसने सिखाया उसे. When he felt that Douglas was able to swim alone, he left. After the training was finished, Douglas wondered if he would be terror-stricken when he would be alone in the pool. He tried, and teeny vestiges of the old terror did return. But now he was not afraid. Douglas was still not satisfied. So he went to Lake Wentworth in New Hampshire. He dived off a dock at Triggs Island. He swam 2 miles across the lake to Stamp Act Island. He used all the strokes that he knew. Only once the terror returned, but Douglas was able to overcome it at once. Yet he had some residual doubts. At his first opportunity, he went to the warm lake. There, he swam across to the other shore and back. Terror did not reappear. Douglas gave out a cry of victory. His terror of water and his conquest of it gave him an insight into the meaning of life and death. He had experienced the fear of death as well as the sensation of dying. He felt there is peace in death, so he lived more intensely. He enjoyed life. Okay students, in the end of this video, homework. First, prepare summary of the chapter, and second, make notes of all character.